Good morning. What we're doing right now is we're going to be dealing with scratchboard for the next couple of weeks. Now, scratchboard is the idea of positive, negative, black and white, no value, no shading, no light source. I don't have to worry about any of that on this project. This is all just black and white, one color. And what we're doing is, this is called a subtractive method. So anytime that you guys have ever drawn, anytime you've ever painted, anytime you've used colored pencils, crayons, anything like that, where you're taking a white sheet of paper and you're adding a color or you're adding a tone or a value to it, that's called an additive method. It's because you're adding to this. Well, now we're just working directly the opposite. Now I'm starting with a black sheet of paper and I'm subtracting and I'm trying to work to white. So it's kind of the opposite of shading with a light source. Now when we think about scratchboards, when we go to do our own pictures later on, and we'll have to do some picture hunting kind of like we did with our portraits, we're going to have to think black and white. You want to think something like a logo, like the Chevy, your Ford logo, shoe logo, clothing logos, things like that. Anything that's very graphic, anything that's very black and white, one color. Okay, so what we're going to do today is everybody's going to get a chance to do a practice scratchboard with my sun and moon picture here. Now what I'm going to show you today is I'm just going to show you a simple way to, without having to redraw the whole picture, how to transfer the picture onto our scratchboard and create a scratchboard. Okay, so if you notice, scratchboard, a normal sheet of paper is white. This scratchboard is black, so this scratchboard is kind of like a really nice sheet of poster board, bristle board, covered in black ink. And what we're doing is, instead of drawing on top of it, now we're scraping the black ink off. So here shortly, you're going to be passed out. Everyone's going to get a picture just like this. Okay, everybody's going to do the first picture, same picture for practice. The scratchboard takes a little while to get the hang of it. Okay. Now, first thing we're going to do is we're going to learn how to transfer our picture to our scratchboard here. I know it was hard to see down here, but the pencil lines are on here. Okay. So there's going to be very few times that you get to trace something this year. This would be one of those opportunities. Okay. Not everybody can draw great, but everybody can do a good piece of art when given the opportunity. So essentially, what you're going to be doing is when you get your handout, and I hope everyone has a pencil today, you're going to flip your handout over, and we're going to kind of look at it. Now, if you take your handout, which you can't see me do right now, but if I take my handout and I hold it up to the lights, I can see through this handout. Okay, you can't hardly see through it right now on my black sheet of paper here, or my white sheet of paper, but if I hold it up to my lights, I can see through it. When I'm able to see through it, the first thing I want to do is try to draw a circle around the outer edge. Okay, I know you guys could probably see that. When I hold my hand over it, you can kind of see through it a little bit. It works even better when you hold it up in the sky, hold it up to the ceiling towards the light. Now what I want to do is I want to try to turn this into carbon paper. Now I don't know if you guys know what carbon paper is, but when you've seen a waiter or waitress take your order on a little sheet there, usually they're throwing this little piece of carbon paper between, and it prints off 2 or 3 versions of that receipt to pass out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to cover the back of this. Now I'm not saying box 9, but I'm saying at least a box 6 or 7, and this may take you guys a few minutes. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to work through this quickly. I'll show you the whole process, then we'll kick off the video and let you guys go to this. So you notice, just like in box 9, I'm going to bust it up into sections, because if you're getting it barely dark like this, that won't work. Okay, so notice I'm coming in, but I'm really trying to cover this thing thoroughly. Alright, so just for times, let's just say I spent the last 5 minutes and I've got this guy covered. Alright, so I took my pencil and I covered the entire back. Well, I have a little thing of scissors. Every table will get a 2 of scissors. Probably want to cut your picture down. You know, if I'm trying to take this big sheet of paper and fit it on my scratch board, I'm not exactly sure if it's going off, if it's staying on the scratch board, which this thing is going to go off a little bit. It's a little bit too big, but not a big deal. So I cut it down. There's going to be some tape out, and I taped it down. So essentially the first thing I want to do is I want to take my pencil and I want to trace over anything that's black. Okay? So I've got all my black triangle sun rays. You know, all my outlines. I'll come through. I'm going to do my outer outline, do my inner outline. I'm going to go over everything. The nose, the mouth, the odd looking eyebrows here, my eye. And I'm not pressing really hard, but I'm firm with my pressing. Okay, so let's say we've got the whole thing traced out. I've traced out over everything. I kind of got this done a little bit beforehand, and I've went over everything that's black. So if you notice, it presses this pencil lead right here straight onto my paper, and it transfers my drawing. Okay, that probably saved us an entire class period by not having to sit there and redraw this entire thing. Well, essentially what I'm trying to do is we're trying to recreate what our printout looks like. Okay, so with scratchboard, you know, we're not creating values, no light source, just black and white. Well, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make my scratchboard look just like my printout. So guess what? If it's white, I'm scratching it out. If it's black, I'm leaving it alone. Okay? And you guys can see where I've got this started here. I'm scratching stuff out. Now what you guys are going to notice, there's two types of cutting tools, carving tools, scraping tools, whatever you want to call them. I just call them scratchboard tools. Let's see. I've got ones here that are very pointed. They look like an arrow. Okay? Those are good for nice little lines, getting the outline of something done. Coming in if I want to do the outline. Not good for carving out large areas. Now I am barely scratching on this. What you guys are going to find out, and this is why we're doing some practice rounds, what you guys are going to find out is you can scratch a hole through this scratch board very easily. I mean, this is literally a piece of poster board with black ink across it. So you're just scraping hard enough to take the black ink off. Okay? Some of you guys are going to scratch too hard. You're going to put holes in it. You're going to find a little film in there. That's going to happen. That's why we're doing this practice one, because I want you guys to, it takes a couple times to get the touch, get how much hard I press. So I've showed you your 2 pointers. Okay, these are the real pointy guys. These are the ones that do line work. Okay, you've also got 2 rounded ones, and I know they look different. You know, this one on my right hand looks a little more like a shovel. This one on my left hand doesn't, but they're both rounded. The rounded tools are great for taking out large areas of white. Now myself, I prefer the rounded tools. Some people prefer the pointed tools. There's no right or wrong answer. Hopefully I've got enough for everybody to try one of each out. Okay, if not, we'll put a few at each table and you guys can just share. Alright, so coming in, and literally any area that's white, I'm going to try to scratch it out so we can see here, you know, the whole inside between my guys here. Now you don't have to go all the way out white. I mean, if you want to kind of make a halo, that's fine. Now notice I'm pressing hard, and you notice I'm not using the point. You know, when I'm trying to take out large areas, I'm using the side. You know, if I was trying to cut something with a blade, I wouldn't cut straight up. You know, I'd lean it and cut it more. Okay? Now you can go back and forth. A lot of times you just want to pull to you. It just depends. I mean, you can look on these guys and see where the sharp side is. Some of these may be getting a little dull, and that's fine. I'll switch some out later in the week after we do our practice ones. But I am just barely pressing at this. You know, it's kind of like when we talked about doing our shading. If I shade too fast, too quick, I have to erase and redo. You know, we know if we shade light, all we got to do is add more to it. Well, this is kind of along those same lines. You know, if I scrape out too much to start with, guess what? I can't put it back. It's gone. All right, it's white. So it's always kind of nice to come in and scrape a little lighter first. Kind of know where you're going. Like I said, there's no do-overs when you do scratchboard. When it's gone, it's gone. Notice I'm kind of laying it on its side. I'm using the side. Switch to this one a little bit, you know, you're going to find out. Like I said, this one's not quite as sharp. This one takes a little more effort. If you want to come through, work your lines out. So essentially, we're trying to make our scratch board look just like our printout. Okay? So when you guys are finished at the end of the hour, number one, you need to make sure name and hours on the back scratch board. Number two, there will be a box that says pointed and a box that says curved. Look, the sign that says curved, sign that says pointed. Okay, if ones are pointed, they look like an arrow. Guess what? They go in the pointed box. The ones that are curved, now sometimes these are hard to tell, but I mean, if it's not, looks like an arrow, if it's not straight, I mean, you can see the difference right here. Curved and pointed, okay? Pointed goes and curved goes. All right? We'll work on these practice ones probably for a day or two. Probably do a second round of practice at the end of the week. Hopefully by next week we'll be working on a nice final picture that we've all agreed upon and printed out. Okay, so this is scratchboard. This is the very beginnings of scratchboard. I will get more into detail with it when I get back, but this is enough to get you guys going and get you rolling. So, step one, we take our printout, flip it over, try to draw the circle around it, cover the back with our pencil, okay? Cut it out with our scissors. Tape the guy down. The reason we tape it down, now when I tape it down, I would only tape down one edge. That way you can kind of pull it up and peek at it as you're tracing on, because sometimes these lines go through, sometimes these don't. If I've got all four corners taped, it's not going to happen. Once I get it printed out, peel it off, I'm going to grab me a pointed or a curved, and I'm going to start taking things out that are white. If it's black, I leave it alone. Okay? Positive, negative, black and white. Scratch boards. Good luck to you. I'll see you tomorrow.